Spring break does start Monday, okay, guys? So, huh? The 6th. So this after this Friday and the Monday, we'll start spring break.
So basically, it's next Monday.
So basically it's next Monday. So at this time next week, that's the start of spring break. All right? Start of spring break. All right, guys, listen. We are still kind of behind, kind of moving assignments here and there around from the storm and from last week being displaced out of our classroom. All right? So these notes I'm going to go through be kind of quick. There'll be, some of these will be kind of self-explanatory. So let's get into it. So we've been talking about I told you before, I love the religion chapter of this religion unit. I love it because it gives everybody a chance to learn about other religions, learn how other people worship, reason why they worship, different types of worship. So now we're going to kind of jump in with this chapter. We jump into social mobility, different classes as it pertains to these religions and these different cultures. So we talked about this in an earlier unit. So now we'll go into this here: rural and an urban setting. Rural are people living in the countryside, often works as farmers, herders, or village craftsmen, maintain traditional ways. Urban people living in large cities, generally more opportunities than the rural setting. Ms. Davis, and if you want to follow along in Google Classroom on your notes, you can, because I know you sit pretty far back. You can do that and just follow along. All right, same thing with y'all. Rural and urban settings, people living in the countryside often works as farmers, herders, or village craftsmen. They usually maintain traditional ways. People living in large cities generate more opportunities than in a rural setting. So basically what this slide is saying is people that stay in, like, since we stay in Lufkin would be more of a rural place, and Houston would be more of an urban place. Okay? That's what that means right there. So people in Lufkin, we often work as farmers, herders, village, or craftsmen, and we also maintain traditional ways. We talked about that the other day when we did our culture map. When we talked about some of our traditional ways. So, urban people living in large cities, generally more opportunities than in the rural cities. So basically, this is people staying in Houston, since they got a lot of factories and corporations. They usually have more opportunities more opportunities than in a rural setting. What's the name? What? Unit 3 notes. Unit 3 notes, brother. Unit 3 notes. I'll give you half a second to get on it. Chapter 8. Unit 3, chapter 8. Unit 3, chapter 8 notes. Unit 3, chapter 8 notes. All this, what we're doing now, from the culture to the religion, all of it is building up to discussing about regions and cultural regions. Regions and cultural regions. Okay? So, you got it about the urban and the rural. Urban and rural setting. Next, again, some of this stuff, guys, that I'm seeing, it's kind of self-explanatory, and it says this is a social structure. People who share similar wealth, power, and prestige are said to belong to the same social class. Most societies consist of the following classes: a lower class, peasants, working class, middle class, upper class. You got it, Ms. Davis? You got it? The note system? Okay, I see my man over here. He may be having a little trouble. I mean, you don't have to. You can just get it off the board. I mean, you don't have to try to follow along. That's up to you.
Yeah, I thought you like, I didn't do the last spot.
I got you. And then I don't need you to, have to run your battery down. Then you be like, can I charge my battery? Rural setting, rural and urban setting. So in the rural, people living in the countryside. So when I say rural, I'm thinking about people in like Lufkin, people in like Alto, people in like Diboll. That's a rural area. Urban settings, people like in Houston, Dallas, bigger cities. One thing that people do in the rural settings is they usually work as farmers, herders, village craftsmen, maintain traditional ways. People in Houston, they usually have more opportunities because of the factories and things of that nature. So that'd be Mhm. Like I say on that next slide, we talk about peasants. You got it up.
Yeah, good.
Okay. This week is gonna go by kind of fast, guys, but I think that'll be a good thing. That'll be a good thing. So next it says people who share wealth, power, and prestige are said to belong to the same social class. Most societies consist of the following classes. Guys, you don't have to write down a bunch of this right here. We just need to know the social structure. The social structure is it usually goes lower class, peasants, working class, middle class, upper class. That is the social structure. That is the social structure right there. We want to put down most societies consist of the following classes: lower class, peasants, working class, middle class, upper class. You see that, Ms. Davis? What I was kind of confused about was I seen lower class and peasants, and I was like, you would think that peasants would be below lower class, but peasants are above lower class. So my research says, lower class are the peasants are working, like farmers and things of that nature. Okay? People share similar wealth, power, prestige, are said to belong to the same social class. Most societies consist of the following classes: lower class, peasants, working class, middle class, and upper class. So as y'all grow up, what class y'all want to be in right here, Miss Davis? What, right here, lower class? The upper class. I'm just checking. You don't want to be a peasant. Because you're in early college, so make sure you got that out. I gotta mess with you. Alright, so basically this is how the social structure goes. Upper class, again, guys, you don't have to write down the full definition. Just make sure you know when it comes to these different types of social structures, social classes, that you guys know that some words that are associated with it. So the upper class basically means wealthy. They own land, they share property, lead luxurious lifestyles. Middle class, they're usually educated, mostly successful. Working class, they're usually manual workers, factory workers. All right. Social structure, we just went over upper class, middle class, working class, peasants, lower class. So the upper class is usually wealthy, they own their own property. The middle class, they're usually educated, mostly professionals, maybe small business owners. Working class is manual workers, factory workers, construction workers. That's what they are. Okay. Got it? Like I say, you just want you want her to be associated. Know that word association when you see upper class, middle class, anything like that. So basically, peasants are farm workers of small farms, and the lower class is often uneducated, unskilled. They take less desirable jobs, and the worst paying jobs. So the peasants are usually farm workers, owners of small farms, engaged in subsidized agriculture. Families grow just enough to feed themselves, and lower class people are often uneducated, unskilled, take less desirable, and worse paying jobs. Seems harsh, but that's just how it goes. Seems very, very harsh. Again, just make sure we know some word association when we see peasants and when we see lower class. Anytime we're talking about the social structure, we know the upper class is talking about wealth, the middle class is usually talking about education, the working class is usually people only own business, things of that nature. All right. You don't have to write this down, but you need to know the definition of social mobility. Social mobility is just, in society, it is easy to move up or down in a social class. So basically this is saying social mobility, that you can move up and down in social class. So basically they're saying that if you are a peasant, that you can move up to an upper class. So let's just say you're a peasant and you want to move up to an upper class. What would be one of those ways that if you're a peasant or you're a lower class, what would be one of those ways where you can move up to an upper class? By stepping up, by what you gonna do to step up?
Get a better job, or
You would get a better job. Going to school, getting an education. That's definitely be a way to if you're a peasant or you're in a lower class, getting a better education would help you in your social mobility to become, in a higher class. All right, so social mobility just means moving up, down in class. So if you're peasant, you want to be up class. But if you are up class, what's one way that you can move down to be a peasant? Lose all your money, make some bad investments, make some bad choices, get on drugs, have a couple of divorces. Baby mamas. That'd be a way to drop down in your social mobility. I'm just telling you. So, question, guys: do you believe that social mobility is a good thing? Should you be able to move up and down in a social class? Yes. Why do you think it's a good thing? Why should you be able to move up and down in a class? That's it. You sure, man? I'll tell you, you sure. But that's it, though. I agree with you. I believe social mobility is a good thing. It's a good thing, and people should be able to move up and down the social class. I think that is a great thing. One thing, when you guys become parents, is that, when it comes to social mobility, that's one thing that we look at as parents, is that we want our kids to be higher on the social mobility ladder than we was. So my parents wanted me to be higher. I want my kids to be higher. So, my parents did a little schooling. So me and my wife, we did college. So hopefully our kids would continue that and go higher in education so they can be higher in their upward mobility. All right? Family structure. We talked about culture when you guys filled out some of the stuff you don't have to write down, guys. Some of the stuff is kind of self-explanatory. But we talked about this in that culture map that I had you guys fill out. and you kept in your notes, this is one thing it talks about right here. It says family structure. Family structure is another aspect of culture. In some cultures, parents only live with their young children. In other cultures, up to 3 generations live in the same household. So, basically, what this is saying is, nowadays more than ever, you see more of, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes like your friends, different households, like, nowadays you see like cousins staying with each other, and your grandmother might stay with each other, right? Your grandmother, your cousins, your aunt, they may all stay in the same room. So the family structure is another aspect of culture. Trying to better explain this. So, just in some cultures, in some cultures, it is very common for grandma to stay there. You know what I'm saying? A lot of cultures, your granny stay with the parents. So that's just how it is. So the family structure changes just depending on the culture. Just depending on the culture. My fish is alive and doing good. I'm gonna take my fish home Friday though. I don't need to stay up here all week. Alright, so next. Okay, again, this is some of this stuff is explanatory. As we're talking about culture, now we're talking about gender roles. Gender roles are especially assigned to men and women. In the past, gender roles were very restrictive. Greater opportunities were available to men than women. Men worked in public while women took care of the family and the household. It's dangerous to see the way you look at it, but I'm just saying it's the way it traditionally. What? Okay. Traditionally, this is the way when it said about gender roles right here. Great opportunities were available to men than the women. Sir. Gotcha. In the past, gender roles were very restrictive. Great opportunities were available to men than the women. Men worked in the public while the women took care of the family and the household. And that's how it was, growing up. And the date. All in I'm just all in your way. Mr. Shep. All in your way. Gender roles. Roles especially assigned to men and to women, specifically assigned to men and women. In the past, gender roles were very restricted. Greater opportunities were available to men than women. Men worked in public while women took care of the family household. Again, this is very important because now things like this are being shattered because we got a Madam First Vice President. We have a Madam Vice President. So those gender roles are being abolished. You got it, Chip? Okay. Changing gender roles. Roles began to change when women got the right to vote. In modern societies, men and women share equal rights. Often women still remain underrepresented in the top jobs in government and in business. Do we know what Constitution gave the women the right to vote? What amendment? What amendment gave women the right to vote? Do we know? Do we remember? That's something we need to definitely know. What amendment gave women the right to vote? The 19th Amendment. Gave women the right to vote. Roles began to change when women got the right to vote. In most modern societies, men and women share equal rights. Often women still remain underrepresented in top jobs and in government and in business. Again, that's why having Kamala Harris was vice president. That's why it's a big thing. That's why it is a big thing. It is a big thing. It's a big thing. In modern societies, men and women share equal rights. Often women still remain underrepresented in top jobs in government and in business. Guys, like I said, we're going to cover 2 or 3 different things today. Still trying to get us caught up. From the last 2 weeks. All right. Next. Some of this you don't have to write down. Traditional gender roles, even today. I'll just talk about this slide right here. Even today, men and women still lack the same opportunity. Women still lack the same opportunity as men. In some cultures, women must cover their face and body in public. Cannot mix freely in public. Must be accompanied by a male in public. They cannot drive in a car. Must get permission from their husband to leave their house. Could you imagine today was being married and having to get permission from your husband to? You ain't let me finish the sentence before you shaking your head. As soon as I said get permission, you was like, couldn't do it. But this is how things was done in the past, traditional gender roles. And in some countries, there are definitely still some rules and some laws and some thinking like this where women cannot mix freely with public, must be accompanied by a male in public, they cannot drive a car, must get permission from their husband to leave the household. So that wouldn't fly too good in some places. That wouldn't be so good in some places. Like I said, even today, women still lack the same opportunities as men. In some cultures, traditional gender roles. You definitely want to tie this as traditional gender roles. Cultural region. Texas. next. Talking about multicultural societies, going back to a little bit what we talked about. The other week when we talked about culture, we talked about different cultures. Here's a multicultural society. Ethnic group, I know you've heard this word all the time, and people talking about what ethnic groups, and so here is the definition of ethnic group. An ethnic group are a group of people with common ancestries and common cultures, religion, and language. Next is homogeneous society. Almost everyone belongs to the same ethnic group, shares the same language and traditions. Multicultural and heterogeneous societies, mix of people and cultures. So basically, maybe us three would be in the same ethnic group because we share the same. One group of people with the common ancestry, with common culture, religion, and language. So basically, we would share that. All right. Notes. Notes. All right. Ethnic group, a group of people with common ancestries and common culture, religion, and language. Homogeneous societies is almost everyone belongs to the same ethnic group, shares the same language and tradition. Multicultural, heterogeneous society. That is a mix of people and cultures. That's the day. All right. We talked about what is a region. All right. Ethnic group of people with common ancestries and common culture, religion, and language. Homogeneous society, almost everyone belongs to the same ethnic group and shares the same language and traditions. Multicultural, heterogeneous society, mix of people and cultures. Okay? And cultures. So, we got it? Okay. Multicultural societies usually have one dominant ethnic group and several minorities. Problems faced by some minorities would be ethnic prejudice, discrimination and exclusion, expulsion, and genocide. Expulsion and genocide. Multicultural societies usually have one dominant ethnic group, several minorities. Problems faced by some minorities, ethnic prejudice, discrimination, exclusion, and expulsion, and genocide. Okay. Okay. Multicultural societies. Multicultural societies usually have one dominant ethnic group, several minorities. Problems faced by some minorities would be ethnic prejudice, discrimination, exclusion, expulsion, and genocide. All right. There are some problems that are faced in a multicultural society. All right. All right. So next, make sure what question on this. Next is having a question. Critical thinking is having a multicultural society a benefit. Why or why not? Do y'all think that having a different people in multicultures is a benefit? Why do you think it's a benefit? Because everybody wouldn't be the same. Exactly. We wouldn't have people wear hoods. I mean, people would have people who wear hoods. We'll have people who wear hats. But one thing that I think that's real good about different multicultural is that, I mean, not for me, because I don't like to eat a lot of different foods. I'm just usually a straight hamburger, hot dog type of person. That's just me. But usually in multicultural, you know, you have the Mexican food, you have Chinese food, you got some soul food. So that is definitely one positive to a multicultural society. Okay? Now guys, that right there, those few slides wrapped up chapter 8. You know, when we was talking the other week, when we talked about culture, and remember, again, we did the culture map and all that. So, and religion and all that. That wrapped it up. But I wanted to finish that. I just don't want to leave it hanging because we missed the week for the snow, and then we got displaced last week because of tail blast. So I wanted to wrap that up. Now, all this is leading up to something new starting today, where we're going to talk about regions. You know, we've already talked about regions when we talked about the 5 themes. Now we're going to kind of hone into cultural regions. You know what I'm saying? Regions and cultural regions. All right. So remember, regions are places that have the same common characteristic. That's what a region is, all right? So we're gonna get into chapter 9. We're gonna talk about like what is a region and cultural regions. Regions and cultural regions. But again, I wanted to put a button I wanted to talk about the other thing. So here it is right there, cultural regions right there. This is what we're going to talk about now. All right, so now, definitely want to start writing this down. What is a region? Cultural regions is defined by common characteristics of the people living there. For example, speaking the same language, practicing the same religion, living under the same government. That is cultural region. Do I need to do? All right. Cultural region. What is a region? And starting tomorrow, we're going to jump into, the continents, North America, Latin America, Europe, East Japan. We're going to jump into a lot of those different places. And I'm going to break down culture region specifics for each section. Okay. But again, I wanted to wrap up chapter 8 and I wanted to start chapter 9. That's what we wanted to do today. Okay? That's exactly what we wanted to do today. So, cultural regions, what is a region? Cultural region is defined by the common characteristics of the people living there. For example, speaking the same language, practicing the same religion, living under the same government. All right. So we definitely want to know. We definitely want to know about this right here. Okay. We definitely want to know these three things right here. Those are examples of cultural region. Cultural region is defined by the common characteristics of the people living there. For example, speaking the same language, practicing the same religion, living under the same government. Those are examples of cultural regions. Okay. Okay. Cultural regions. All right. These are the type of regions that we need to know about. Types of regions is the formal regions. Formal regions is one with clear boundaries defined by at least one or human physical characteristics. That would be the Amazon rainforest, the Angelina County, and climate region. Those are formal regions. One with clear boundaries defined by at least one human or physical characteristic. For instance, like the human rainforest, the Amazon rainforest, Angelina County, climate region. Next will be the functional region, defined by one function that may cut across political boundaries. For example, the Mississippi River, the drainage basin, TV and radio station broadcasting area. And last will be the perceptional region, based on people's attitudes and emotions about a place. So it's the Big Apple or the Midwest. Okay? Types of regions: a formal region, a functional region, a perceptional region. Formal region is one with clear boundaries, defined by at least one or human physical characteristics. Amazon rainforest, Angelina County climate region. A functional region is defined by one function that may cut across political boundaries. The Mississippi River, the drainage basin, TV, radio station, broadcasting area. Perceptional region based on people's attitudes and emotions about a place. Okay. This is characteristic. Functional region, defined by one function that may cut across political boundaries. Mississippi River, the drainage basin, TV, radio station, broadcasting area. Perceptional region based on people's attitudes and emotions about a place. Types of region. Types of region. Okay. Like I say, I wanted to finish up chapter 8, just kind of dive in, get us ready for chapter 9. Chapter 9, we'll be talking about different regions, and tomorrow I'll be going in depth into different regions, what make them, what the common characteristics that they have, that they share, different common characteristics that they share. Okay. And I'll, like I say, go into these a little bit more. We'll talk about Texas. We'll talk about, give more better examples of these right here tomorrow, okay? Did you get that slide down? Did you get that slide down, Mr. Shep?
Almost done.
All right. All right. Cultural regions. Next, we're gonna watch a small video, and then in your Google Classroom under Flocabulary, you will see an assignment that we will do. Okay, so I'm gonna play this video, then you will look at this assignment. Take the video out here, Mr. Hold up, guys, my computer, what's that, not gonna act right. Oh, man. This kind of gives you a better explanation of what we'll get into tomorrow with the different regions and So when we finish watching the video, we're gonna work on it's an assignment on in Google Classroom. All right. So that better kind of gets us in going into, what we'll be talking about when it comes to regions. You see, they talked about Southern Africa. They talked about just different regions right there. So what we'll do now, guys, is go to your Google Classroom and go to Google Classroom, and you'll see the assignment to say vocabulary regions. That's what we'll work on that. Okay, we'll work on that assignment there. Like I say, you can do everything, go Google Classroom, and it just kind of gets us ready for this this chapter on cultural regions. Okay. Like I said, tomorrow we will dive into each region and their cultural region, what makes them a cultural region, what do they have in common, what are some of their characteristics, what do they share? Like the video said, they can share things like politics, government, religion, all those different things they can share. So. Okay, that's what we'll do. Let me show my class.